The 1950s were a decade of quiet but profound transformation for Britain. The nation was emerging from the long shadow of wartime rationing, rebuilding itself street by street, household by household. For millions of ordinary families, the motor car was no longer a luxury reserved for the privileged few. It was becoming something altogether more democratic, more necessary, and more woven into the fabric of daily life. A Sunday drive to the coast, a school run through terrace streets, a trip to visit relatives in the next county, the family car made all of it possible. British manufacturers responded to this new demand with ingenuity, purpose, and a genuine understanding of what working families needed. Today, we are counting down the 10 greatest British family cars of the remarkable decade, and if you enjoy proper classic cars, do not forget to like the video and subscribe to Britain Rewind. Now we begin with number 10. Number 10, Standard 8. The Standard 8 entered production in 1953, built at the Cowley Works in Coventry. It was powered by a modest 803 cubic centimeters four-cylinder engine producing approximately 26 brake horsepower, which suited its intended purpose without excess. Mechanically, it was simple by design, featuring a side-valve engine layout that kept manufacturing costs controlled and servicing straightforward for the average owner. Inside, the cabin was functional rather than comfortable, offering seating for adults with little concession to refinement. Trim levels were deliberately sparse, reflecting the car's budget orientation. It appealed chiefly to first-time buyers and young families seeking reliable basic transport at an accessible price point. Sales were steady throughout the early part of the decade. The Standard 8 represented the entry point into motoring for a generation of British families who had previously managed without a car entirely. Number 9, Hillman Minx. The Hillman Minx, produced at Rootes Group's Ryton-on-Dunsmore plant in Coventry, offered a step above basic transport when it arrived in updated form during 1950. Its 1,265 cubic centimeters overhead valve engine delivered around 37 brake horsepower, providing adequate performance for family motoring across typical British roads of the era. The engineering reflected a conventional layout with a separate chassis in earlier variants, transitioning toward unitary construction as the decade progressed. The interior was noticeably more considered than many competitors, featuring a proper dashboard arrangement and reasonable rear passenger space. It attracted clerical workers, tradespeople, and lower middle-class families who wanted respectability alongside economy. Sales were consistent across the decade, with Rootes updating the model regularly. The Minx demonstrated that modest pricing and a degree of refinement were not mutually exclusive in post-war British motoring. Number 8, Vauxhall Wyvern. Produced at Vauxhall's Luton facility, the Wyvern launched in 1951 as part of a revised lineup that brought more modern styling to a conservative market. Its 1,508 cubic centimeters four-cylinder engine produced approximately 40 brake horsepower, placing it comfortably within the family saloon class. The car adopted a full monocoque body structure, which was forward-thinking for its price bracket and contributed to a more rigid, quieter driving experience than older separate chassis designs. Inside, the Wyvern offered a well-proportioned cabin with column gear change, freeing floor space and reinforcing the sense of a proper, adult motor car. Buyers were typically established working families and junior professionals. Sales were solid throughout the early 1950s. The Wyvern helped Vauxhall establish a reliable presence in a segment where trust and longevity were the primary concerns of the purchasing public. Number 7, Wolseley for 44. The Wolseley for 44s entered production in 1952, assembled at the Nuffield Organisation's Cowley plant in Oxfordshire. It was powered by a 1,250 cubic centimeters overhead camshaft engine producing around 46 brake horsepower, giving it a noticeably more spirited character than many contemporary family saloons. Its engineering drew directly from the Milligram YB, sharing suspension and mechanical components in a manner that brought a degree of driver engagement to a respectable family package. The interior was among the most refined in its class, featuring leather seating, polished walnut trim, and a comprehensive instrument display. It was purchased by professionals, senior tradesmen, and those who considered their motor car a reflection of personal standing. Sales were measured but consistent. The Wolseley A40 occupied a meaningful niche where family utility and traditional British craftsmanship were equally valued. Number 6. Ford Consul. Ford's Consul, produced at Dagenham in Essex from 1951, represented a considered step forward in mainstream British motoring. Its 1,508 cubic centimeters overhead valve four-cylinder engine yielded approximately 47 brake horsepower, delivering reasonable performance across varied conditions. Technically, the Consul was significant for introducing McPherson strut front suspension to British volume production, a development that influenced the entire industry in subsequent years. The body was a clean three-box design with genuine interior space for a family of 4 or 5. The cabin, while not luxurious, was thoughtfully laid out with practical storage and clear instrumentation. Buyers included factory supervisors, local tradespeople, and aspiring suburban families. Sales were strong and consistent. The Consul proved that technical advancement and broad commercial appeal were achievable together, setting expectations that British buyers would carry into the following decade. Number 5. Austin A40 Somerset. Built at Longbridge in Birmingham, the Austin A40 Somerset ran from 1952 to 1954 as part of the British Motor Corporation's expanding family range. Its 1,200 cubic centimeters overhead valve engine produced approximately 42 brake horsepower, and while its production life was brief, the car established clear expectations for what a mid-range Austin should provide. The separate chassis construction was already considered traditional by the time of launch, though it provided a solid, predictable drive that buyers found reassuring. Inside, the Somerset offered decent accommodation with fabric seating and a dashboard arrangement that was orderly without being Spartan. It attracted school teachers, local authority employees, and established working-class families moving into car ownership for the first time. Sales were meaningful during its short run. The Somerset reinforced Austin's reputation for sound, dependable family transport throughout the early part of the decade. Number 4. Rover P4. The Rover P4, produced at Solihull from 1949 through the decade, represented British family motoring at its most distinguished. Powered initially by a 1,595 cubic centimeters engine and later in 2,103 cc and 2,638 cc configurations producing between 60 and 90 brake horsepower depending on variant, the P4 offered genuine long-distance ability. Its engineering was thorough and carefully executed, with independent front suspension providing a composed ride that larger families on longer journeys appreciated enormously. The interior was genuinely impressive, with leather seating, a central driving lamp on early models, and a level of cabinet-quality woodwork rarely found outside vehicles costing considerably more. Senior managers, local councillors, and established professionals formed the core buyer group. Sales were consistent across numerous facelift variants. The P4 earned lasting respect by combining dignified appearance with mechanical durability that few British manufacturers of the period could match. Number 3. Ford Popular. The Ford Popular, assembled at Dagenham from 1953, was extraordinary in its simplicity and cultural reach. Powered by a 1,172 cubic centimeters side valve engine producing around 30 brake horsepower, it was deliberately engineered to the minimum specification required to function reliably and be sold at the lowest possible price. There was no heater as standard, no semaphore indicators, and no interior extravagance of any kind. Yet this austerity made it the most accessible new car available in Britain during the mid-1950s, priced to place motoring within reach of families who had calculated they could never afford it. The cabin was basic in every measurable sense, yet it transported millions of British families on journeys they would otherwise never have made. Sales were exceptional. The Popular did not merely sell well, it genuinely opened the road to a broad section of British society that had previously remained on foot. Number 2. Austin A35. The Austin A35, launched in 1956 from the Longbridge plant in Birmingham, refined everything that its A30 predecessor had introduced and delivered it with greater conviction. Its 948 cubic centimeters overhead valve engine produced approximately 34 brake horsepower, a meaningful improvement in character over earlier small Austin units. The engineering was compact, durable, and well suited to the demands of urban and suburban family life. Inside, the A35 offered a snug but functional cabin with improved instrumentation, a proper rear seat capable of carrying 2 adults, and quality that matched its price without embarrassment. Young married couples, nurses, junior civil servants, and small shopkeepers bought it in considerable numbers across Britain. Sales were dominant within its class. The A35 captured the texture of late 1950s British family life with a directness and reliability that gave it lasting affection long after production concluded. Number 1. Morris Minor. The Morris Minor, designed by Alec Isagonis and built at Cowley in Oxfordshire from 1948 through to the end of the decade and well beyond, stands without serious dispute as the defining British family car of the 1950s. Powered by a 918cc engine in early form and updated to an 803cc unit before adopting the 948cc overhead valve engine in 1956, producing around 37 brake horsepower in final configuration, it offered a driving experience of remarkable quality relative to its price. Its torsion bar front suspension, monocoque body, and wide-set wheels gave it handling characteristics that were genuinely superior to most competitors. The cabin was practical, decently finished, and welcoming. It sold to everyone: doctors, clergymen, district nurses, factory workers, and retired school teachers. Total British sales exceeded 1 million units, making it the first British car to reach that milestone. The Morris Minor did not simply define the decade, it defined what a British family car was expected to be. The 1950s left a permanent mark on British motoring. In the space of a single decade, the motor car moved from being an occasional luxury to an expected fixture of family life, parked outside terraced houses from Aberdeen to Plymouth. The cars on this list were not built to impress. They were built to carry families to work, to school, to seaside towns, to relatives, and to all the unrecorded ordinary moments that make up a life. They were designed by engineers who understood what Britain needed and manufactured by workers who built them with care. That combination of pragmatism and craftsmanship produced a generation of vehicles that has never entirely faded from public memory. If you enjoyed this one, like the video, subscribe, and let us know your favorite in the comments. We read every response and welcome your knowledge of these extraordinary machines. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.